I don't know about you, but I love great salesmanship. I love watching somebody in action going through the art of a sale. Whether it's a politician giving a speech, like that was unbelievable what they just said. Whether I go to a conference and it's a speaker, whether I'm watching somebody in the field, I really value great salesmanship. I have found over the years, right, running offices, I've ran hundreds of morning meetings, and I always found myself usually once every 2 weeks, I get right back to the core of like a morning meeting on just great, effective salesmanship. I want my reps making as much money as they can, and I want them to be very good at this skill. The skill of great salesmanship is going to follow you everywhere throughout your entire life. John Maxwell says the most important skill you're ever going to have to attain this lifetime of yours is our people skills. So get really good at good people skills. And so again, salesmanship is just the art of persuasion. I think of two people I've worked with over the years that were just the most brilliant salespeople I'd ever seen. Helen Davidoff is the first name that comes to mind. I met her when she was 17, and upon meeting her, she was so magnetic, so charming, and so confident and assertive. And I'm like, man, when Helen graduates, I got to recruit this girl. She will be amazing. And I've been working with Helen for well over 2 decades now. So shout out to Helen. And Steve Sorensen, I remember being in the field with Steve in Austin, Texas, right? I fly to Austin. It's obviously hot in the field in Austin. And he was so charming at the door. I'm like, I felt like I was watching a magician. He was mesmerizing people. And then he was so assertive with the close after he does his magic work. He then says, go get me the phone now, right? And just in a fun sort of way, but totally assertive. And people would be like, okay, let me go get the phone. Let's call in an order here. I'm like, Steve, you are one of the best I've ever seen. So I value great salesmanship. I hope everybody watching these videos is very good at sales. And this topic is going to be on sales training. And I know not that long ago, episode 132, I talked about effective sales training. But here's Hector Patino's question. Hector reaches out quite a bit. He's in Houston, up and coming owner here. Got a lot of respect for Hector. Good family man. And so here's his question. He says, sometimes I train one rep and he is great. Sometimes I train another rep and he is not so great. What's the difference? And so I couldn't help but think of a word. A word came to mind. I'm like, Hector, I think this is what you need here. And that word is intentionality. So here we go on intentionality. Have you ever thought about the value of sucking in the field? We all know the value of kicking butt in the field. There's value, there's money in it. But if you thought of the value of, listen, you're not very good at what you do. You sucked for a period of time. Is there value in that? Well, think about it. If you weren't very good and you learned how to get good, there's an education that you got there. Well, you may be able to pay that education forward. You may be able to identify what's going on with your people, right? So I found that other trainers in the office, other leaders in the office that were just naturally great at sales and never sucked, a lot of them, there was a disconnect with their people because their people wouldn't do well and they'd just be like, I don't know what's wrong with Bob. Like, Bob just needs to do what I do. Like, what's wrong with him? Versus me, where I'm like, well, I know what Bob's doing wrong. I did that same thing he's doing for a long time. So I have the recipe of how to go from sucking to really good in the field. Similar, I have this thought process with when you feel a cold coming on, right? As you age, right, as you get older and you know your body better, I'm sure most of you, when a cold is coming, you feel it at the early stages. Do you have a recipe? Do you have a process for how to potentially derail a cold? For me, I've asked people over the years, right? I've heard people say, Jamie, take Airborne. You feel a cold coming on, take this. You can buy it at any drugstore, just take Airborne. Well, my recipe is I'll overdose on vitamin C and I'll overdose on echinacea. I'll drink a ton of water and I'll try to get as much sleep as I can. And many times, it's not foolproof, it doesn't happen every time, because I don't want to get a cold. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to be missing out on important things in life, right? So I can derail the cold. I know the process. So I really think intentionality starts with knowing where is the pain. and being able to identify, okay, listen, there is pain happening here. I've got a rep who is not doing well in the field. You got to be able to surgically pinpoint exactly what is wrong with the person. Another analogy would be like, you go to a doctor, you don't know what's wrong with you. The doctor will ask enough questions to get it down to like, you know what, here's what I think is wrong with you. That's why you go see that expert. So we all need to be expert sales trainers. And again, intentionality starts with identifying the pain. Okay, Jamie, I'm that doctor, I'm that surgeon. I can diagnose, I can ask enough questions, I can observe enough to see, okay, I know what they need to work on. I see the pain, I can structure that pitch. I can put the intro, short story, presentation, close together. I can help them with the personality, the smiling, the body language in the pitch. Okay, I got that. However, there's only so many hours in a day. I have to hit my numbers. I want them to hit their numbers. I mean, who am I focusing on? And the answer to that question is both. In episode 52, I talked about the velocity of sales while training. So you may want to check that out if that's really the specific question. But you've really got to be intentional about when are you working together and when are you splitting up. Because really, a great training day is a combination of you're working together, they're hanging out with you, they're watching the master in action, and you cut them loose and you split up. So how do you know when they should be working with you? And how do you know when you should be letting them go on their own and pitch a few people? And the answer is really look at the body language. Again, just be intentional as you're observing the body language. If somebody is slumping, if their shoulders are down and they're and they're looking at the ground, they might not be in a great place mentally, right? So that's a tell, like, okay, it's time to work together again. Time for you to follow me. And so then when they're anxious to leave you, I just picture like a rubber band. You're pulling a rubber band back. You pull it back far enough that the rubber band's going to shoot far. So I want them anxious, like, okay, I'm watching you close another one, Jamie. Okay, I'm getting sick and tired of this. Let me go on mine. No, just watch me one more. Okay, just watch one more of my pitches here, right? You can tell they're anxious. It's time to cut them loose. But ideally, a great day where you're both productive. The leader's productive, I'm hitting my numbers. The trainee's productive, you're hitting your numbers. It's a great combination of we're working together, we're splitting up, we're working together, we're splitting up, working together, splitting up. Again, watch episode 52, but you got to be very intentional with observing the body language of your trainee. My last bullet, and you probably already know what I'm going to say. I feel like so many of these episodes, this topic comes up quite a bit. It's all about building confidence. Be intentional with your praise, right? If you look at the number one reason to why people don't do well at things, okay, almost anything, whether it's sports, you're not doing well in the sport, you're not doing well at sales, you're not doing well in school, confidence gets rattled. You start telling yourself a story like, well, maybe I can't. So I think we all need cheerleaders in our lives to point out the things that we're doing right. So when I'm talking about intentionality with praise, be specific. I think if you're just too general with your praise, it's kind of like lip service. Oh, listen, Bob, you're doing great. Keep it up. If I was doing so great, I'd be closing deals. So obviously I'm not doing great. They might not say that, but that's what they're thinking. Be intentional. Hey, Bob, I love how you're real natural at dealing with people. Like you're talking to people like you already know them, like you're already friends with them. I love that. The last lady you talked with, you guys were talking about, the up and coming baseball season. And, I think that's just wonderful how you did that. And so those sales are going to come with time, but keep up that CPR. You're natural with that. So that's the specifics that I'm looking for with praise. When people really believe that they can do something, give it enough repetitions, give it enough time, they will. It's that lack of praise. It's like people getting down on themselves with the no, 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 no. You just keep shrinking. And once you've lost all confidence, they check out. They're done. So I got to be checking in from time to time and offering the right amount of praise, right? Again, look at that body language like I talked about that last point, but I'm always trying to be that good finder. I'm trying to catch them doing something right, and I want to be intentional and specific with the praise. So Hector, I hope that helps. We don't normally do this, but we had to add another segment to this video because Hector did follow up 2 weeks after we had the conversation about intentionality. And here's what he says in an email. Hi, Jamie. I had 2 entry level start this week. One of them got a sale on her first day and closed again on her third day. My other trainee personally made $1,385 in his first 3 days in the field. I've been really intentional about my training and development of every person that I work with. Just wanted to let you know. Great job, Hector. I love the execution. You took the knowledge, you did something with it. I very much look forward to your promotion to management sometime very soon in Houston. Keep up the great work, Hector.